This
more
conference will now
easily
be recorded.
Yeah.
in terms of the demo session. So in demo session, we cannot cover a lot, of course, but we'll try to give an overview. And let's start with car POS GTA, which is the upgraded version of POS DM, which you said that you have watched a long back.
Yeah.
So let's first try to understand what this POS DM or car POS GT is all about. So basically, from the retail stores, the sales data will be transferred, will be interfaced to a specific car, and there we will have something called transaction logs or T logs. Okay, and
Yeah.
then these T logs we will audit and enrich, and then we will transfer this data to SAP S4HANA system or the ERP system. Earlier it was POS DM versus ECC retail. Now it is car versus S4H. Okay,
Yeah.
so what we will do here, we will understand what are the different business functions possible with car POS DTA, meaning what kind of data SAP car will receive from the US system. I opened a different system, sorry. I opened the S4HANA system. So the different business transactions which are possible for car POS DTA are basically the ones that you can see here, sales movement. So these are the sales transactions. 90% of these will be 90% of the total volume of transactions that arises out of the POS system will be sales and returns. Then there will be goods movement transactions, like if there are transactions related to transfer posting, stock movements, scrapping, etc., then they can be interfaced with car as well to file, and it will create a specific transaction log. Total record is another business transaction, which is basically the end of day cash sell reconciliation only for payment type cash. So it's a very specific case of audit where a reconciliation is done for the payment method cash. Basically, in a particular POS system, the cash is counted and it is tallied with the system count for the same payment type. And if there is a discrepancy, then it is flagged out and transferred to S4 to post into financial accounting. Then there is reversals, which are basically canceling out a transaction. Say customer has come and bought 5 items in a transaction, and within the return window, he comes back and he returns the entire 5 items in the transaction. So in that case, the original transaction is reversed out. Then there is financial transactions, which is basically the loss or gain related to non-merchandise sale, meaning the store has uh, has gained some amount by doing scrap sale to the back end, or the store has to expend out some amount uh, due to office supplies and stationaries. So those transactions which are not related to a trading goods sale can be accounted for through financial transactions. And then there are control transactions, which are basically used for tracking any specific activity that happens out of POS. Say, for example, cashier login time, cashier log out time, then any kind of training transaction, um, any kind of uh, any kind of physical activity that is performed at POS. You can send a file which contains the summary of the activity, and that can be mapped into a control transaction. Okay. So these are the different business transactions possible in standard SAP in car POS DTA. Now let's go through one simple cycle of the sales transaction end to end. So we'll create a transaction log manually, and then we will process it end to end to S4 and see how it impacts. Okay.
Okay.
So let's try
So,
to create a transaction. We
so
don't have a
Rajesh,
complex.
yeah. So Rajesh, basically, the car is replacing POS DM, POS DA, right? in the landscape.
Yeah,
For example, between
exactly.
post DB and ECC, in between, it will be only car.
Exactly. So earlier, your PostDM, the PostDM component was sitting in the BW system earlier, right? So it was BW to SAP IS retail connectivity. Now BW is not anymore hosted within car. Car is a separate box altogether. BW is a separate box, and PostDTA no longer is present within BW. It is now present within car.
Okay. So whatever we used to do in post DM, we need to do it in car
Exactly. Exactly.
along with some other
And there are
functions. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. So car has
Okay.
other functionalities as well, so specific to retail like omni-channel article availability, omni-channel promotion and pricing. Then it has also has on-shelf availability. It has also got multi-channel sales analytics. It has also got real-time inventory visibility and of course we have car costing. So that's how car is comprised of. Now let's
Okay.
create a transaction log. There is no data at all. So I will just
So
activate this page
initially, if
and
you during initial topics, we will be only discussing those topics which we know already in post DM, right? Initial
yeah,
topics.
yeah,
Huh?
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, see, basically, let me tell you the practical use cases of car. So,
Okay.
whichever clients are using car, 100% they are using car POS DDA. The other components they may use or may not use. But most commonly, or 100%, you can say that if a client is buying license for car, they will be using POS DDA. Then he
Okay.
might go for omni-channel availability and sourcing on top of it, but that's also optional.
Okay. But
Okay,
those
so
topics
that's
will be
how.
covered in this session. No? I mean, in training.
Yeah, yeah. I believe Naveen has already shared the course content with you,
Yes. Yes.
or has says you not. Yeah, so that those topics will be definitely covered. So all those points that I mentioned are there in the course content, and we'll be covering it.
Okay.
Okay. So let's create a transaction manually. Some time with some lags happening here. Ah, it, a moment. Activity issue. Just be online. I will be changing my network.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Couple of minutes.
Hello, Rajesh. Venkat, we are not
Yeah,
getting
Naveen,
the.
no, I am joining from a different system because
Okay, okay, fine.
I that system got stuck, so you have to make me presenter again. I am
Sure,
joining from a different system.
sure, sure, fine. 2 minutes, Venkat, please. Okay.
No problem.
Yeah, Naveen, make me presenter again, please. Yeah. So I was trying to create a transaction log manually, and at that point I got stuck. So let me do it afresh. So here we have to put the store. We have a few stores already set up, configure and set up, the posting date, and there is something called transaction type. Now, this transaction type basically controls the business transaction. So just now I was showing you that there are 7 different kind of business transactions possible, and those are basically these ones. Now, this
Okay.
transaction type is a config entity, which is basically controlling which business transaction this transaction log is going to be created against. So let me show you the configuration quickly so that you can relate readily. So if we go to this config section, define transaction type, and we, we have a profile concept here. Not going into the details of profile concept right away, but just wanted to show you where it is. So this is the config where we specify a particular transaction as one of those 6 which are there in the Monzero workbench initial screen. So now if I use 1001, that will be characterized as a sales transaction. Then post number, this is the physical post number from which the sales transaction originated. This is the transaction number, meaning the invoice number. Basically, it might be 5, 6, whatever. Generally, these are generated in sequence. Department is optional, basically. You can put a valid entry over here, or you can leave it blank. Cashier name is the employee ID or is employee name, and then date and time. Okay.
We generally receive this data from store, right? Host.
So they will send us send file, and there will be middleware in between, which will
Okay.
basically map and convert the file into IDOC, or it can directly call RFC and then update the T-log header and item structure and create a transaction log. So both are possible.
So do we do that configuration as well, or it's standard?
Which configuration? Which one?
Reading the file and creating these transactions.
That is, yeah, that's done in the SAP PIPO, the middleware. So that we need not do in the car. Car will have its own set of configuration, just like the one I showed you. There will be several other building blocks of a transaction log, and the mapping has to be compatible with the config elements. For example, uh, in the sales file, there will be some specific identifiers, and that identifier will map it to 1001. So that mapping details will be handled in SAP PIPO, the middleware. So that is a separate SAP product, probably you are aware, and there will be PIPO consultants who will be managing that.
Yeah, but if you receive IDOC, so we need to understand, right, whether that is integrated or not. So which IDOC types we use for those transactions or something like that. Do we need to know, or
There is a, I mean, you can obviously go through the IDOC, probably created one, and a dummy one, manually in
why?
W9.
Yeah, why I'm asking is, for example, sales type is there, no? So how it is created in car? For example, if it is RFC, so to which RFC it is created, something like that. If you want to know.
IDOC create multiple, I guess. Yeah, that's the IDOC type which creates the transaction log. Let me find it out. Yeah, this is the IDOC type which basically creates transaction log. There are none at the moment, uh, but we can simulate one in W19. We can simulate one for this particular uh, message type.
Okay.
And if you want the technical details, I can obviously provide you. But here in this client, our client, we can either do it manually in a post workbench directly, or you can simulate IDOC and put the data in specific segments and do that as well. But
Okay.
that's more time consuming basically to post the
Yeah, yeah,
IDOC independently in W19. That's more time consuming.
okay.
I can show
I
you
got.
one cycle of IDOC posting. Okay, for now, let us. So this is the header data. This is the header data of the going to ever down. This is the header data of the transaction log, which has the store, posting date, and these details. And then we can add sales item data, which basically is the details for the transaction, meaning which particular product has been sold. So again, we have a config block, building block, which is a config element, which is sales item type, and this is sales item type 2001 is already set up in the config for the sales. Then qualifier for article identifier. In real time, the EN code of the article is scanned at the point of sale system. So in the real time, you will get one here and the corresponding EN code of the product here. But for testing purpose, we can always use a actual article code like 171. We have an article code here.
Yeah.
And let's say two pieces have been sold for 200. There are two sales values here. One is actual sales value and another is retail sales value, normal and actual. So if there is a discount, then your normal and actual will have a difference. So your actual might be 150 and your normal will be 400, something like that. And then there can be tax and discount, all those elements, but not going into details of these right now. I'm just trying to create a vanilla scenario. And let's go to means of payment and create a means of payment here. So 310.1 is the building block for means of payment, which is set up for cashier. And save this. So this is a very basic, simple transaction log, which is created for sales. So if a sales file gets processed by the middleware from the store, then the end result as a car consultant that we can expect is something like this. This is obviously the simplest format. One transaction containing one article sold for 2 pieces for 200, and it has been paid by cash, and that is also 200. Now, these data will be processed through certain audits, and then it will be finally transferred via IDOC to S4 system, where it will impact the inventory and financial accounting. So let's log into the S4HANA system, which is connected to this. Let's say this is what is the article code I was using? 171, I guess. 171. So let's see how much stock is there in that store. So there is no stock currently for this article 171 for R104. So what I can do is I can upload some stock. Otherwise, it will go into negative. So let me upload some stock. Currently, there is 100 pieces of stock. Fine. Now let's process this transaction log. Let's process this. So there are two ways of processing the sales transaction log. One is aggregated sales, and then there is receipt-based sales. Now the difference between the two is in aggregated sales, we aggregate by store, posting date, conditions, material conditions, and in that way, uh, for a store for a particular day, all the articles that are sold over different transactions will be aggregated in a single IDOC segment. So, for example, if article X sold sales for 5 pieces at morning 10 a.m. and again at 7 p.m. 3 pieces, then it will accumulate 5 plus 3 equal to 8. Two different transaction details will be accumulated in a single IDOC segment or IDOC type WPUMS. So that is why how the term aggregated comes into picture. So two different transactions will get aggregated in a single IDOC segment and it will post into the financial accounting and inventory in an aggregated manner. And the receipt-based sales doesn't aggregate. It retains its individuality in the IDOC segment. Of course, it uses a different IDOC segment WPUBON, and then per segment, one billing document is generated. So in this particular case, if article X sells 5 pieces at 10 a.m. and 3 pieces at 7 p.m., then it will have two different segments for 5 and 3 respectively. And when this IDOC gets posted to S4, it will create two billing documents for the same article for 5 and 3. So there is a linear and one-to-one relationship between IDOC, transaction log, and the billing document in S4. Now, most of the cases, what you will see is the client using aggregated sales. Most of the cases. So here we have only one transaction. So either aggregated, which is WQMS, or receipt-based sales doesn't make any difference. But if we process collectively number of transaction logs, then we can realize the difference, and then it makes a significant difference in terms of posting and IDOCs.
Yeah, okay. So basically,
when you
we are
process it,
sending, yeah, basically we are sending this sales data to S4HANA, right?
yes, yes.
Material and price and all. So then, what is the meaning of audit? Where we are doing audit in S4HANA? Because
Currently, I
this
have not
data.
shown you that audit.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, currently,
So
I have not
we
shown you
just
the audit.
received this data from PostDM and we are sending to S4HANA.
Yeah, audit I have not shown you as of now. So audit is
Okay,
basically a step which is before the the activity which creates IDOC and sends the sales data. But right now I was trying to show you the basic cycle, so I haven't carried out the audit
okay,
task as of now. So we can
yeah,
see.
okay, okay, yeah, got it, got it.
So this is the IDOC, outbound IDOC from car to S4. Now in S4 side, there will be inbound IDOC. There will be inbound IDOC in S4 side, which contains the same information, and we can get the article document, meaning when the IDOC got posted, it will create an article document, and that means it will reduce the stock. So now it will be 98. And it will also create a billing document, which will eventually post to financial accounting. It will credit the revenue account. So this is the end-to-end processing from IDOC perspective. Now there are different other tasks for audit in SAP car itself. So one of the audit is basically to check if the transaction is duplicate. Not sure why it is going down frequently. So basically, we can perform some audit like duplicate check. Check for duplicate transactions. So if the same transaction number repeats in the same day, same store, then it is a duplicate. Meaning store R104 on 3rd of March 2022, if it sends two transaction numbers, each having number 5 from the same post number, then it is a duplicate. So currently there is only one transaction, it does not matter at all, but that is how it is treated. So if I create another one, let's copy this exactly as it is.
So that check is standard check only, right? We don't do any customization.
No, standard check, yes, it is standard check. I mean, if you want any custom check, that will be a development. So now this is a duplicate. So this check failed, and you can see that transaction index 2 is already having the same data. Transaction index is basically transaction index 2 is having same data as that of index 1. So index 1 is basically the first one. So that is why the second one is flagged as an error for that particular task. So there are different other audits as well. So this is in nutshell about R positivity. Now there are other topics as well as I mentioned. Now it's very difficult to cover each of these in even in a short format because those are very big topics. Now, what I can
Yeah.
ask Naveen to provide some recordings of omni-channel. Even omni-channel will take 2-3 sessions together. Maybe one session, some insights of it, and probably OSA one recording, or maybe only one of those two. So you can get a broader picture of what those things are. So how I go about these topics is basically first I explain the business context of the topic and subtopic. Then I explain in system the transactional process. Then I explain the configuration behind it, and then I share the document on these scenarios and sub scenarios. So for each and every topic and subtopic, this is how I progress. And yeah, so that's about it. Now, as I told, car paucity is not the only topic, but in the demonstration, we cannot accommodate a lot of these things because car topics are quite expansive. It cannot be shown in a nutshell, basically. It takes over 2 to 3 days, for example, omni-channel. I mean, if I try to uh, even summarize that, takes a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah, understand.
Okay, so that's it from my side. If you have any questions, you can ask, or else you can think about it and then uh, maybe let Naveen know, and then we can plan something accordingly.
Yeah. So, does it no? Do we include some configurations in S4 HANA as well, or only in car?
Yeah, so the necessary config in S4, I will be also showing you what we require
So,
in the S4 for the posting part.
not only just partner profile, right? So, how the account? I mean, how the these accounting documents are created. You know, what is the type of I mean, document types, material document types. Do we configure that one, or it's related to other consultants? In
That's the accounting document type is basically financial. Now the billing document type.
financial.
When we get the IDOC, post the IDOC, it is a billing document type, and then when we post IDOC, there is a material document which comes with movement types 251 for sales and 250 for return. So those are controlled to the POS inbound configuration. So those I will explain. But accounting document type, if you mention that comes, that's related to the financial section, financial configuration section.
Yeah, I worked 6 months, 6 months long back, but I only remember the names. I even don't remember the screens as well. So it's long back. So the flow from S4 HANA to car and post DM also, right? We will see discounts, how it flows, pricing information or
Yeah,
something
definitely.
like that.
Yeah, discount also will see. Only from
So
end to end, R to
yeah,
S4.
so after completing this course, will I be able to work in post DM, old system post DM, or there will be
Yeah,
too
yeah,
much
definitely.
difference?
Not too much difference. The only significant thing is that in BW, you will always be referring to BW tables. Like there are tables in BW like slash BI0 material, slash BI0 plant, which are the repository for all the master data. Now, since car is without BW, the master data repository for car is car HANA database. That's hosted in a separate environment. You need to install HANA Studio to access that. So the data content of POSDM and data content of car positivity is totally different.
Okay.
Okay, but you can definitely work the concepts and all that still remains the same. There are the other fundamental differences, but if you work with the different business scenarios, that holds good. The concept of task, aggregated sales, and all those things still hold good. Technically, there are differences.
Okay. So, and also integration between POS DB and car. It will be handled by PI, as you said, like reading file
Yes,
and creating.
exactly. Okay then. So if there are no other questions, then we can end it now. And as I said, you can think it over and then let Navin know. Okay. Okay then. Fine. Hello. Okay then. Bye.